Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. Holy freaking hell, it all makes sense now, and I guess Occam's razor is once again proved right. The simplest explanation is usually the most likely. Well, it seems we're coming full circle here and now confirming the simplest explanation. Remember that shady James Comey photo from back in 2017? Maybe I could find an article. Here, we got this from the 22nd of June, 2017, a Daily Mail exclusive that says James Comey visits the New York Times building as President Trump admits that he did not record their conversations and questions what else ousted FBI director leaked to the press. We had all these very odd photos of James Comey showing up at the New York Times building, and a lot of people jumped to conclusions saying, well, obviously he's continuing to leak, he's one of the major leakers at the FBI here, clearly playing some angles. But the leftist media, of course, gave that no mind. No, they just chalked it up to yet again another right-wing conspiracy theory, and then just moved on as if nothing was happening. Well, like I said, it's a full circle moment. Now here we are, with newly declassified FBI documents proving that yes, it was exactly what it looked like, an organized, calculated leak operation to smear President Trump, and of course to protect himself. It was exactly what we expected. Let me show you guys what's going on. We got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. Alright folks, so let's flash back to June 2017. Donald Trump had just fired James Comey as the FBI director, and actually at that moment he had already admitted in Senate testimony to leaking memos about his Trump meetings to the New York Times through his buddy Daniel Richman, supposedly all to kick off a special counsel probe. And well, I guess that visit to the New York Times office in New York City, well, it wasn't just some casual stroll. It wasn't James Comey going to have lunch with a friend. No, it was part of another setup in what is clearly being exposed as a deliberate campaign to undermine the President of the United States. And now, well, we have the frickin' receipts. More new FBI documents that are declassified at long last, which are starting to show a very clear pattern. John Solomon from Town Hall is breaking the news on Sean Hannity's late night show.
Years ago on this program, I said, you have the right to remain silent, and you might want to use it. This is a very long piece that you have here. It is a worthwhile read. I'll let you sum it up. I want your conclusion on what you're finding here, because to me it's very damning.
What you find out is that James Comey decided not to work through the FBI press office when he wanted to change the narrative in Washington, burnish his reputation against attacks from Democrats, and try to sully Donald Trump's reputation. If you remember, Democrats were mad that James Comey let out of the bag just before the election that there might be some new evidence in the Hillary Clinton email scandal. Hillary blamed Comey for throwing the election. She blamed the Russians for throwing the election. She blamed everybody but herself for throwing the election for her. But Comey was trying to rehabilitate that. And so he had an intermediary, a Columbia law professor by the name of Daniel Richman, who the FBI confirmed and interviewed. And Richman said, yes, I used my relationship with a New York Times reporter named Michael Schmidt. He's one of the authors of the Pulitzer Prize winning package that President Trump is now suing over. My goal was to improve negative stories about James Comey and to set a narrative, i.e. set the Russia collusion narrative. This guy worked around the official channels of the FBI press office. And at one point, the FBI noted, you met with James Comey. He gave you access to classified information. A short while later, you had a conversation with that New York Times reporter, and he ends up reporting something that appears to be classified. Did you do it? And he gives, I think, perhaps the most famous denial people will remember since Bill Clinton says it depends what the meaning of the word is when he tried to obfuscate whether he had an affair with Monica Lewinsky. He says, I can say, I don't think I confirmed the information. I can say with a discount that I didn't give him the classified information. With a discount means you got to give me some room. It's an extraordinary moment. The FBI clearly had strong suspicions that this was a potential backdoor for information, maybe classified information, to get out to the media with James Comey's fingerprints on it. And they didn't go much further. They didn't put Comey before the grand jury, that we can tell. They didn't appear to put this gentleman, Daniel Richman, before the grand jury. And like Adam Schiff, as we told you last night, here they have an eyewitness whistleblower who said, I was in the room when he authorized leaks of intel. These end up being a dead end again. And it's another reminder of a dual system of justice that the Justice Department had the last 6 years. These are documents that were never given to Jim Jordan. Jim Jordan confirmed that to me today. And we're just learning 8 years later, because of what Kash Patel turned over, that the FBI had all the evidence of how the false narrative of Russia collusion was spread across this country to the detriment of voters, to the detriment of President Trump's first campaign, and they did nothing about it.
And so now the receipts are here. James Comey bypassed the official FBI press office by bypassed DOJ coordination and instead funneled classified intelligence directly to the New York Times in the hands of reporter Mike Schmidt through his connection Richmond, Daniel Richmond. And at one point, Richmond apparently even told FBI agents that he was, quote, James Comey's media mole, and his mission was to, quote, fix Comey's image after the Hillary email disaster and pump the Russia collusion hoax that crippled Donald Trump's early presidency. The FBI opened an investigation codenamed Arctic Haze after spotting this back channel in multiple New York Times pieces, including the April 2017 article, quote, Comey tried to shield the FBI from politics. So basically, James Comey was acting inappropriately, probably illegally. He was playing politics and using his media mole to do so, while at the same time having his New York Times minions write stories that he was trying to shield the FBI from politics, running generic defense pieces as if he wasn't doing what he was literally doing. James Comey basically wanted to rewrite the narrative. He wanted to dodge the Democrat heat that he was taking, and of course, number one priority was to slam Donald Trump in the process. So basically 3 things: apologize to Hillary Clinton, or frankly, make amends or beg for forgiveness. Last thing James Comey wanted was to end up on the Clinton kill list. And then of course, the next 2 things he was up to: defending his own public image, defending his own name, and using his minions to do so, while at the same time pushing the Russia collusion hoax. He was basically acting on behalf of Barack Obama. Whereas we know back in December of 2016, before the inauguration, they had essentially rejected the intelligence that suggested that Russia had no impact on the 2016 election. They rejected that intelligence and instead pushed forward their own phony assessment that Russia had hacked the election on behalf of President Donald Trump. And obviously, they were using people like James Comey, who are pushing this false information to their media moles in places like the New York Times. Well, thanks to Kash Patel and all the work that he's doing, we're now exposing the whole thing, how all of this fed into the Russia hoax pipeline, showing exactly how all that fake intelligence was seeded to friendly reporters. And now the question is something going to happen? Is somebody going to be held accountable for their actions? Well, if we ever do cross that bridge, it's got to happen basically now. Willfully leaking classified information has a 5-year statute of limitations, which can be extended to 10 years in more egregious cases. And so basically, the clock started in April of 2017, and that means we have from 2027 to get this done. It could still potentially be fair game to prosecute. And at this point, after spending the last 5, maybe almost 6 years covering this stuff, I gotta tell you, I think we have enough of the puzzle pieces here to really start to put an image together to see what's happening. And for me, honestly, no more beating around the bush, no more ifs and buts. I'm just going to say it, James Comey belongs in prison. None of this was accidental. There's no coincidences here. This was all part of a deliberate conspiracy to weaponize the FBI against a sitting president. And disgraced former FBI Director James Comey, well, he was at the center of all of it. He leaked secrets, manipulated the press, and helped engineer arguably one of the most damaging political hoaxes in modern history. A hoax that cost billions, that split the country in half, and probably most damaging, destroyed trust in American elections and American agencies and institutions. This guy took an oath to uphold the law, and instead he turned the FBI into a political hit squad. I gotta say, attempting to betray the will of the American voters, abusing your power to engage in a shadow coup against the President of the United States, all built on a false premise, if that's not enough to get a man in front of a grand jury, then frankly nothing is. James Comey belongs in frickin' prison. What else is there to say? Anyways, that's pretty much what I got for you guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to leave a like and possibly subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.